In the quiet town of Amberdale, an unsettling mystery began to unfold. The sun rose on a crisp fall morning in September 2022, casting soft light on the calming surroundings. The town, known for its peaceful charm and tight-knit community, was suddenly shaken by a shocking event. A local woman named Zoe Dawson, beloved by her friends and family, vanished without a trace. Zoe was a 28-year-old school teacher, greatly admired for her dedication to her students and her warm spirit. The first sign that something was wrong came when her close friend, Winter, grew worried after failing to reach Zoe for 2 days. Winter knew it was unusual for Zoe to not answer her calls or texts. Feeling anxious, she decided to check Zoe's home. When Winter arrived, she found the front door unlocked. She called Zoe's name, but received no answer. Inside, everything appeared normal. The living room was tidy, and a cup of tea sat untouched on the table. However, Zoe was nowhere to be found. Immediately, Winter called the police and reported her friend missing. She described how Zoe was a responsible person who would never leave without telling anyone. Officers arrived quickly and began their investigation at the scene. They noted Zoe's belongings were still in the house, but there were no signs of struggle, adding to the unsettling mystery. Winter stood nearby, filled with fear and confusion. What could have happened to Zoe? As news of Zoe's disappearance circulated, the town reacted with shock. Residents gathered, expressing concern for Zoe and her family. Many shared memories of her kindness and vibrant personality. Speculations about what might have happened to her started to circulate among friends and family. Some believed it could be a terrible accident, prompting thoughts of her taking a walk alone, while others feared it might be a more sinister act. Was she attacked by a stranger, or did someone in her life know more than they let on? The atmosphere in Amberdale shifted from its usual calm to one heavy with tension and uncertainty. Rumors spread like wildfire, and the community became divided by these theories. Some held on to hope, believing Zoe would soon return, while others faced the harsh possibility that something terrible had happened. The local news media began to cover the story, heightening worry in the small town. Reporters spoke with Zoe's loved ones, assuring them they would uncover the truth. Investigators began to delve deeper into Zoe's life. They accessed her social media accounts and interviewed friends, coworkers, and neighbors. Each person they spoke to provided pieces of Zoe's recent life. Many insisted she had no enemies. However, it became clear that the truth would not come easily. As investigators sought to piece together the timeline of events leading to her disappearance, they faced a growing sense of urgency to find Zoe before it was too late. Each passing hour raised deeper questions only the community could help answer. The chance to find Zoe alive hung delicately in the balance, setting the stage for a complex investigation that had just begun. As the days passed since Zoe Dawson's disappearance, the air in Amberdale grew heavier with worry. Local law enforcement swung into action, determined to find her. Detective Vivian Collins was assigned to the case. She was known for her sharp instincts and ability to connect dots that others might miss. Vivian arrived at the scene, taking in every detail. She inspected Zoe's home and spoke with Winter, the friend who reported her missing. The investigation began with gathering evidence. Officers collected Zoe's personal items from her home, hoping to find clues. They took her phone and other belongings for forensic analysis. Vivian Collins understood the importance of every small detail. Even an item that seemed unimportant could hold vital information. They dusted for fingerprints and identified potential messages that Zoe may have received. Each new piece of evidence fueled their hope to find her. Law enforcement started interviewing friends, family, and neighbors. People in the community shared their last interactions with Zoe. Some mentioned that she had seemed slightly distressed in the days before her disappearance. They also learned about a few unusual conversations she had. A neighbor recalled hearing raised voices from Zoe's home about a week before she vanished. Another friend mentioned a recent argument over social media with a classmate. These comments raised flags about possible tensions in Zoe's life that had gone unnoticed. As the investigation progressed, Vivian Collins discovered a few individuals who stood out. The classmate, who had argued with Zoe, appeared nervous during questioning. His answers were inconsistent, and he seemed uneasy when discussing the incident. Police looked deeper into his background, but found nothing conclusive. This raised more questions than answers, prompting detectives to focus on him. They concluded that expanding their search was crucial to understanding Zoe's world better. The team reviewed surveillance footage from nearby stores and streets. It was a vital step to track Zoe's last known movements. Clips showed her walking down a busy street 2 days prior to her disappearance. She appeared normal, smiling as she waved at a passing car. But after that, there were no signs of where she could have gone. The lack of follow-up footage heightened the mystery. What had happened in those critical hours? Meanwhile, the media began to cover Zoe's story. Local journalists stepped in, interviewing detectives and going door to door for person sightings. They sought the public's help, urging anyone who might know something to come forward. This support amplified the investigation's urgency. The community rallied together, putting up posters and sharing information online. Each citizen wanted to be part of bringing Zoe home safe. Vivian Collins and her team chased leads while remaining hopeful. They understood the emotional weight this case held for the community. The atmosphere was tense, but there was also a sense of unity emerging. Finding Zoe became not just about investigation, but a community mission. With every step they took, law enforcement concentrated on their goal: to uncover the truth and hopefully bring closure to a mystery that touched the hearts of many. The investigation was intense, filled with keywords like hope, determination, and resilience. Detectives knew that the answers were out there, and their commitment would not falter, even as suspicions grew and the clock ticked on in the search for answers. As Detective Vivian Collins and her team continued their investigation into Zoe Dawson's disappearance, new clues began to surface that changed the direction of their work. During interviews, one of Zoe's neighbors provided a puzzling story. They recalled a strange incident that had taken place a few months prior to Zoe's disappearance. A car parked near Zoe's home had seemed out of place. It was a blue sedan that appeared a few times, drawing attention. The driver, a man who the neighbor did not recognize, often sat in the car. This odd behavior raised concerns at the time, but people dismissed it as coincidental. The story piqued Vivian's interest, pushing her to probe deeper into this potential lead. The police decided to check records for reported sightings of a blue sedan. Sure enough, they found several accounts from locals who had seen the same car around shop areas on different occasions. Each sighting seemed to align with Zoe's schedule. This previously ignored detail turned into a vital clue. Investigators began searching for the owner of the vehicle, hoping this unknown man could link to Zoe's fate. Yet the investigation was not without complicating factors. Unexpected pressure from the media began to rise as the days turned into weeks. Local news outlets kept Zoe's story alive, urging the community not to forget her. While this raised awareness and urged citizens to be on the lookout for her, it also confused the investigation further. Police officers found themselves juggling responses to reporters while trying to focus on leads. Some journalists reported false information, misleading the public and creating mistrust. Unreliable witnesses started popping up, claiming to have seen Zoe in various places across town or even in neighboring cities. These conflicting reports made it challenging to determine which tips were worth investigating. Vivian Collins kept a careful watch on the incoming information. Each witness statement had to be considered, but she knew that not every story would hold truth. The pressure grew as community members began offering their own theories. Some suggested that Zoe had run away or gone off to start a new life. Others theorized about darker possibilities, suggesting that someone close to Zoe may have played a role in her disappearance. The air became thick with speculation that lingered over the town. As the investigation unfolded, another strange coincidence surfaced. A similar case from the past emerged, where another local woman had gone missing 5 years earlier. Detective Collins noted how this case felt alarmingly familiar. Details aside from the incidents themselves were hauntingly similar. Both women were in their 20s, intelligent, and had strong ties within the community. A missing persons report during Zoe's case reopened questions about that earlier incident. Investigators decided it was necessary to dig into the past case files, searching for any threads that connected the two women. More pressure on the case shifted focus toward this earlier disappearance. Vivian felt the weight on her shoulders grow. Solving not one, but two mysteries could serve as a chance for justice. Yet she balanced her desire to honor Zoe and the other woman with practical investigative work. Meanwhile, the strange car sightings and reported interests in both women could not be overlooked. As Vivian continued to sift through various strains of evidence, her resolve to find Zoe only strengthened. She believed the truth was there, lying beneath layers of doubt, noise, and fear, patiently waiting for someone to uncover it. The case now felt like more than an investigation. It was a quest for answers that rippled across the town. As every hour passed, hope mingled with the urgency to find the truth. Weeks after Zoe Dawson had disappeared, the investigation hit a turning point. Detective Vivian Collins and her team received a call from the forensic lab that changed everything. They had identified DNA evidence found at the scene of Zoe's home that belonged to an unknown person. This crucial discovery sparked new hope in the search for Zoe. The report confirmed that the DNA samples were from a male, which indicated a possible connection to Zoe's case. This evidence opened doors that had been previously shut. It meant there was someone outside of Zoe's regular circle involved in her disappearance. As the forensic team continued to analyze the DNA, Detective Collins followed other leads regarding the blue sedan that had repeatedly been seen near Zoe's house. By reaching out to local car repair shops, they discovered that the vehicle had been in for service a few months before Zoe went missing. The records listed a name connected to the car, a man named Kevin Young. Kevin was a local handyman, known for helping people with odd jobs around town. He had a prior conviction for minor offenses, but had always maintained he was turning his life around. At this point, Vivian and her team decided to take a closer look into Kevin's life. They checked with neighbors and friends, learning that he had been acting oddly before Zoe vanished. Some reported seeing him watching Zoe from a distance. While his actions were never reported at the time, they raised new suspicions now. Questions began to swirl. Why had he taken an unwelcome interest in Zoe? Was he involved somehow, or was he just a misguided neighbor? As the investigation deepened, a key witness stepped forward. A woman who lived a few blocks away reported receiving strange messages. She realized they contained vague threats and odd comments about Zoe. The witness recognized the mixed emotions in the messages and understood they could connect to Kevin. This sudden influx of information felt like a puzzle piece finally falling into place. The picture began to sharpen. Detective Collins knew she needed to act. Plans were laid for a confrontation. The investigation team carefully organized a meeting with Kevin, knowing the stakes. They wanted the interaction to be calm yet effective, aiming to uncover the truth without escalating the tension. Vivian explained how they had obtained new evidence and informed Kevin that he was of interest in the case. The moment was tense as she laid bare the facts, revealing the DNA evidence and witness accounts. Kevin remained calm at first, but his demeanor began to change. His initially cool detachment shifted to nervousness as Vivian pressed him for answers. When confronted with the DNA evidence, he became defensive, offering vague excuses. Each reply was filled with contradictions that led Vivian to believe he was hiding something significant. As the questioning continued, Vivian pushed harder. She could sense the gravity of the moment. Finally, after a series of intense exchanges, the situation boiled over. With mounting pressure, Kevin attempted to leave. At that moment, law enforcement moved in to detain him for further questioning. This immediate confrontation shifted the investigation once more and sent ripples of shock through the team. The arrest was sudden yet felt calculated. They knew they had not only uncovered important evidence, but potentially located a key suspect in Zoe's disappearance. The details, once scattered, were now coming together dramatically. There was still much more to understand, and the team braced for possible revelations that could follow. Right then, everything hung delicately in the balance, promising twists they had yet to uncover. After Kevin Young's arrest, Detective Vivian Collins and her team took him to the police station for further questioning. The atmosphere in the interrogation room was tense. Vivian understood that Kevin was under immense pressure, and she planned to use that to get to the truth. The room was bare, with only a table and 2 chairs. Kevin sat across from Vivian, his hands trembling slightly as he faced the reality of his situation. At first, Kevin tried to maintain his composure. He confidently insisted he did not know anything about Zoe's disappearance. His eyes darted around the room, searching for any escape. Vivian listened, carefully noting his every word. She had seen anxiety distort people before. His nervous energy indicated he was holding back crucial information. She urged him to speak the truth, explaining how vital his cooperation was. As the questioning continued, Kevin's facade began to crack. Vivian asked him about his movements the day Zoe vanished. His story changed several times, highlighting inconsistencies in his alibi. Each time he spoke, it became clear he was trying to manipulate his narrative, presenting himself as innocent. He claimed he was at a friend's house, yet could not provide any names or details about that supposed visit. Feeling the pressure, Kevin attempted to deflect. He shifted blame, suggesting that Zoe must have left town on her own. He painted a picture of her as someone who wanted to escape her life. "She was always looking for an adventure," he said, attempting to convince the detectives that Zoe had run away and that he had nothing to do with it. This tactic was transparent. It was clear he sought to erase himself from the crime. As Vivian pressed him on why he had been seen near Zoe's home, Kevin's nervousness intensified. His previous confidence waned as the weight of the accusation pressed down. Finally, in a moment of sheer frustration, Kevin blurted out that he didn't mean for anything to happen. This unexpected admission instantly filled the room with an air of explosive tension. Vivian's heart raced at the implication. Did this mean he had been involved in some way? Kevin quickly tried to retract his statement, insisting he was only talking out of anger. He begged Vivian to believe him, claiming he was just a handyman and never intended to hurt her. His manipulative manner shifted, revealing a scared man clinging to the hope of freedom. But even as he spoke, cracks in his story became evident, showing a man grappling with guilt. Detective Collins remembered Zoe and how loved she was in their community. The real question began to loom. What exactly did Kevin mean by saying he didn't mean for anything to happen? What had transpired in those critical moments? With each question, her instinct told her Kevin was hiding more. He felt cornered but still refused to say everything. As the interrogation wore on, a sudden wall became evident. Kevin was on the verge of breaking down, but was still trying to control the narrative. The twisted psychology of fear and denial played out in front of the detectives like a slow-moving train wreck. The tension was palpable, but Vivian remained steady. She wasn't going to let him manipulate the discussion any longer. In a moment of clarity, she decided that more direct tactics were needed. She felt it was time to confront him with everything they had. "Kevin," she started firmly, "the DNA matches what we found at Zoe's home. The evidence is clear." In those words, the course of the investigation tilted further toward revelation. The question remained, would Kevin reveal the whole story both detectives and the community so desperately needed to know? The energy in the room shifted dramatically, leaving everyone on edge for what might come next. Kevin Young's arrest in connection with Zoe Dawson's disappearance set off a series of legal events that would soon capture the attention of the local community. As news spread, the town of Amberdale felt the weight of the unfolding case. The emotional toll on Zoe's family was deep. They were devastated and desperate for answers, struggling to comprehend the overview of a loved one's disappearance and its potential outcome. The media spotlight heightened the drama, intensifying community support for the Dawson family. As the legal proceedings began, both sides worked hard to prepare for trial. Kevin was charged with Zoe's abduction, which carried serious consequences. At first, it seemed he might accept a plea bargain, which would reduce his potential sentence, avoiding a lengthy trial. However, Vivian Collins and the prosecution were adamant about proving his guilt. They gathered a strong case built upon the DNA evidence and witness testimony. The evidence charted a damning path, reinforcing their determination to see justice served for Zoe. When the trial finally began, the courtroom was filled with people from the community, supporters of Zoe and her family, seeking closure. Emotions ran high as they listened to heart-wrenching accounts from individuals who knew Zoe and her vibrant spirit. Each testimony painted a picture of the woman they lost. The poignant stories stirred feelings of grief, but also hope that justice would be served. The prosecution presented clear and compelling evidence in court. They emphasized the timeline of events and linked Kevin directly to Zoe's last known moments. Forensic experts explained the significance of the DNA evidence found at Zoe's home, which left little room for doubt. Despite this, Kevin's defense team mounted an unexpected strategy. They attempted to portray Kevin as a victim of circumstance, insisting he never meant harm. They even suggested that the DNA evidence could be misleading, hinting at possible contamination during collection. This defense strategy shocked many who had been following the case. Kevin's lawyers argued that he was merely an innocent bystander caught in a chaotic situation. However, the witnesses who came forward painted a darker image. A particularly powerful testimony came from the neighbor, who described Kevin's strange behavior and the suspicious presence near Zoe's home. This latter account cast doubt on Kevin's defense, reminding the court of the seriousness of the charges against him. As the trial progressed, every piece of testimony revealed more about the insidious motivations behind Kevin's actions. The courtroom atmosphere became charged with emotion as Zoe's family and supporters felt the weight of their love for her. They firmly believed in their right to witness justice. Their commitment to Zoe never faltered, even as the trial unveiled uncomfortable truths. The public reaction grew fierce, as social media debated Kevin's innocence or guilt. Many residents felt protective of Zoe's memory and demanded justice. Amid the trial, feelings ran high, nearly echoing the emotions expressed during the investigation phase. Community rallies emerged, filled with people wearing shirts bearing Zoe's image. They called for justice, urging the legal system to take the steps necessary to answer the looming questions about their beloved friend. Eventually, after days of testimony and deliberation, the jury reached a verdict. The tension in the courtroom was palpable as everyone awaited the answer that could change their lives. In that moment, the fate of Kevin Young rested in the balance, and the community held its breath, eager for justice to honor Zoe's memory and to serve as a warning against future acts of violence in their community. The verdict would mark a turning point for everyone involved, sealing their emotions in a fragile yet powerful moment. As the verdict was handed down, the atmosphere in the courtroom shifted dramatically. Supporters of Zoe Dawson erupted in tears of relief and sorrow, while Kevin Young sat stunned, his expression unreadable. The verdict found him guilty of Zoe's abduction and murder, leading to an outpouring of emotion from the community. News quickly spread, and with each report came detailed discussions about the trial. Local and national media made Zoe's story a high-profile case, shining a harsh light on the grim realities of violence and loss. Newspapers printed headlines that emphasized the importance of justice for Zoe. They featured stories of her vibrant life and the impact of her disappearance on family and friends. Social media platforms filled with posts honoring her memory, reinforcing support for her family. Across town and beyond, vigils were held, where residents lit candles and shared their memories of Zoe. The community embraced her family, ensuring they were not alone in their grief. It was evident that Zoe's story became more than just a case. It united the community in a collective pursuit of understanding. Even as the truth emerged through the trial, some lingering doubts remained. People questioned whether justice had truly been served, mainly due to how circumstances unfolded. Rumors spread, suggesting that there may have been more people involved in her disappearance. Some questioned if Kevin was the only person connected to the crime. In the end, the case teaches that while we may find resolution in some aspects, the urgent need for community strength and understanding of human behavior continues. How are we as individuals and a society committed to learning from past violence to create safer environments for everyone? The hope rests in our collective ability to ensure that such stories do not repeat themselves.